Without this bill passing in the state legislature, it will shift the shaft to everybody who pays property tax except for those who try to get through this loophole. This loophole needs to be taken care of on multiple levels, and it needs to be taken care of completely and not just have a band-aid approach when it does get addressed in the legislature. So it's my hope that it gets done as soon as possible in the January session. And if they come back in December, God bless them, get it done in the December session. But if it doesn't get done, you can almost be guaranteed that that movement of money will be shifted to local property owners and small business people in our community. And it's real money that they're talking about.
I want to welcome everybody here today in the Village of Summers. And what we're going to talk about is the dark store legislation that we've been really trying to get passed in the village and statewide. So it's SB dark store is SB 386, and the Walgreen one is SB 389. The cost to Summers, if we, right now we're in litigation right now with Walmart and Sam's. They filed against us on the dark store legislation. The legal fees right now, as to date, has cost us $78,307. We project that it's going to be about $150,000 when this is all done and said. And we don't know if we're going to win or not, but we're hoping that we do. The cost to, if they're successful, the cost to the Village of Summers in 2017 tax dollars is $13,795 that we'll have to return. And the Walmart portion would be $25,305. That's just the Summers portion. It's not the county, Gateway, the schools, and the library. And so with this, I'm going to turn it over to the mayor of Kenosha, John Antaramian, and he will express his concerns also.
Good morning, everyone. One of the problems we're starting to have is that I don't think people still realize how the impact of the dark store legislation is going to be. In the city of Kenosha, we are going to see about a $350 increase on average home in the future. It's going to continually pick up over a number of years that people won't see it, but it'll be there. And so the shift is what is the problem. We're seeing a massive shift from retail to the residential homeowner, and that has to stop. So one of the things that we're looking to do today is to educate people that the dark store legislation is imperative for all of us, and that we need to make sure that the state moves forward in dealing with this problem.
The Village of Pleasant Prairie is one of the communities that could be most negatively impacted by this, especially for the residential and the small business property owners in the village. The village prides itself on keeping a balanced portfolio of residential, commercial, and retail businesses to provide the best services to the residents at the lowest cost to everybody involved. This shift would affect the small business and residential community property owners by making the same services they would pay for with or without this shift greater for those residential and small business property owners. Could it lead to a 17% shift and a cost of almost $893 per residential or small business property owner? This is a serious issue. It needs to be addressed now, and if we don't act now, that's what the future is going to be. Thank you.
Property tax is the most hated tax out there. It arrives right before Christmas. It's that big bill that people always worry about. Every month, a lot of people put away a little money to cover that property tax that comes in. It's going to go up. It's going to hurt people out there. The best way to fight it is to vote yes on the resolution on the ballot and lobby Madison leaders after the election so they take care of this bill and hold property taxes down. Thank you.
This is on the ballot in many counties across the state because of the great importance that this has for the electorate. As our elected local leaders have indicated, this is a true property tax shift, which actually will hurt residential homeowners and small businesses. I know the Restaurant Association has been lobbying hard as well. There's a couple things I want to say. First of all, I was very proud that as we went into the last floor period, I noticed we were a couple senators short of having a majority. So Senator Tim Carpenter, Senator LaTanya Johnson both said that they would add their name when I asked them on the floor, and that gave us a majority in both houses. So if this came up for a vote, it obviously would pass instantly because you have a majority of sponsors in both houses. So there's two things. One, obviously, as Senator Wirtz said, I'd like to see people vote yes in the referendum. Secondly, I'd like to see journalists ask these gubernatorial candidates whether or not they would call a special session, because it's absolutely essential. Obviously, the governor the last couple of years did not do that, and it's desperately needed. And then finally, I would just end with the idea that that unquestionably, for those people of modest means, their taxes are definitely going to go up if this is not addressed. And to shift that burden from big box stores in particular to especially senior citizens, people of modest means, is just absolutely irresponsible, and that's something that we cannot continue to have.
I don't mind paying my taxes, but I don't want to pay the taxes of Walgreens. I don't want to pay the taxes of Walmart. And it is just shameful that when we know that there are the votes in both the Assembly and in the Senate, that the Speaker and also the leader in the Senate did not bring this bill forward. It is also shameful that the governor did nothing, knowing that this bill was in the legislature, that the governor has done nothing to put his finger on the pedal to make sure that this comes forward. So we have to make sure that we have a good turnout in the elections on November 6th, and also that the referendums do well, and that this is one of the first bills we take up, because I'm sure that a lot of people will join me in not wanting to pay their taxes.
Residents of Kenosha County, due to an uncontrollable situation, your property taxes may be increasing by over $800 next year. We as a county have done everything in our control. As a two-term member of the Legislative Committee and a county board, I have been part of 2 resolutions sent to Madison. Select legislators in Madison have already had a study by committee, then already had a bill written, and was sitting on a desk of Majority Leaders Fitzgerald and Voss. Tell me why then do we need to have yet another study? Will we have another bill written? Why? We already had one written. We continue to combat a drastic mental health need. We continue to fight to improve opioid epidemic within our county, but we also need to deal with businesses putting the cost onto you. Remember this when you go shopping on Black Friday. Stores like the one right behind me here are not only taking your consumer dollars, but they are also increasing your property taxes. How much more do you want to give them?